Mono.
Ben has decided to basically take the position that in the movie Lex Luthor was actually right all along. This review was sponsored by Luthor Corp.
Look guys, I'm famous! I had to consult Dialga and Palkia to pay insurance for the destruction of the fabric of reality that happened a couple weeks ago. But Palkia said, "We are not gods, we are horses, and horses are," before they turned into horses. I don't get it either, but my insurance claim was denied. And so I had to take matters into my own hands. Those band-aids really paid off. Now that balance in the universe is restored, I could focus on what I had planned. Let's see. Monotype? What's a monotype? Sometimes standard play can get boring or frustrating. It is natural for human beings to get bored of repetitive routines, assuming everyone playing Showdown is human. Fortunately, there are plenty of other metagames or alternate formats on Showdown. I might touch on those metagames in a future video, but what I want to focus on now is Monotype. The premise of this format is simple. Your entire team must share a type, like having a team of 6 dragon types. You might be looking at the rule set for Monotype and think,
Where's the dog? What the fuck is that?
Well, I'm here to explain those and more. Like, why is Fluttermane and Ogerpon Hearthflame allowed in the format? Why is Terrestrialization banned? And why is Sableye good in Monotype? Due to the metagame's inherent limitations, less used Pokemon sometimes become valuable assets to their type, due to having access to hazard removal or an important immunity. Covering your type's weaknesses is very important. Otherwise, your Mono Ghost team is going to get 6-0'd by Scarfmia. It's also important to cover other mono teams like mono fighting, even if the type itself isn't weak to fighting. Why don't we run down some examples of Pokemon that perform better in monotype than in standard play? Clodsire is a solid Pokemon on stall in OU already, but in monotype, it's one of the best defensive Pokemon on mono ground, serving as a check to water types with Water Absorb. It also has a useful set of resistances to Fairy and Fighting while packing the Special Bulk to eat the special hits that otherwise threaten the specially weak ground types in the game. Sableye's Ghost typing is incredible on Mono Dark, mitigating its weakness to Fighting and also amplifying the strength of Mono Dark spike-sacking teams with its ability to Spin Block. Braviary, who's normally shit everywhere, is actually valuable on Mono Normal for being a bulky ground immune that can also clear hazards with Defog. Alolan Muck on Mono Poison stops Psychic and Ghost moves from bulldozing the entire team, and it provides adequate utility with Knockoff. Galarian Weezing, who runs Neutralizing Gas in standard play, uses Levitate instead because having a switch into Earthquake is more crucial for Mono Poison than defogging on Goldango. A big winner of Monotype is Hisuian Goodra, whose great bulk, neutrality to all of Dragon's weaknesses, and access to Knockoff coupled with Heavy Slam threatening many of the physically frail lightweight fairies has made it a staple on Mono Dragon teams. Some other mons that normally aren't viable in standard play includes Articuno on Mono Flying teams, Azumarill on Mono Fairy teams, Scrafty on Mono Fighting teams, Hisuian Zoroark on Mono Normal teams, and Metagross on Mono Psychic teams. As I mentioned before, certain roles in Monotype become less accessible. The Electric type, for example, doesn't really have hazard setters, so Sandy Shocks, a Pokemon that normally never sees play and overused, is a valuable asset on Mono Electric teams for its role compression. The same goes for Swampert, who's great on Mono Water teams as not just an electric immune, but also as a slow pivot with a pool, get it, of great support options. Pivoting back to Sandy Shocks for a minute, in all formats, coverage is important, but that is amplified in Monotype, where having good matchups into the most common type is key to playing the tier. Earth Power is a boon for Mono Electric teams for dealing big damage to tanks like Hisuian Goodra. A better example is Greninja, who's a top Pokemon on Mono Water and Dark teams because, holy shit, look at this coverage! Ice Beam for dragons and flying types, Sludge Wave for fairies, especially Primarina and Azumarill, Grass Knot for opposing water types, and Extra Sensory for bulky poison types like Clodsire and Toxapex, as well as fighting types like Urshifu. It also helps that Greninja's speed tier triumphs over plenty of offensive threats. The playstyle also depends on the type of choice. The most viable mono Bug teams are purely offensive, because Bug is terrible defensively, and the type itself has a roster of hazard setters as well as sweepers. Mono Fairy also leans towards offense, since a key player, Klefki, get it, is great at supporting them with spikes and screens. Also, Fairy is a broken type. Some types are more dynamic, like Steel, Water, and Flying, due to having greater options and their typings generally being more flexible. Monotype is a relatively offensive tier compared to standard play. Just like any other tier, you need to recognize and manage specific threats to your team, as well as cover less than ideal type matchups, which can be done with good team building and playing. An interesting example within Monotype is the Dark versus Fighting matchup, where you would think Fighting has a clear advantage, but the coverage from fast Pokemon such as Meowscarada, Greninja, and Darkrai allow them to break through fighting teams with Psychic and Fairy type attacks. However, Pokemon such as specially defensive Scrafty have popped up to stop Psychic spam from powering through the type, while teammates such as Sneasler can punish Play Rough Meowscarada. Which is why, again, it's important in Monotype to recognize which Pokemon are good versus the whole team, but also which Pokemon are there to stop specific threats from becoming overwhelming. This also creates an interesting dynamic compared to a metagame like OU, where similar Pokemon are available, but the Pokemon that break the metagame could be completely different. When a Pokemon terrestrializes in OU or any other tier, they're able to flip their worst matchups in their favor. However, that comes at the cost of being vulnerable to something else. But the ability to permanently change your type is conceptually broken in a tier where you're only allowed to use one of 18 types. Thus, terrestrialization was banned. This has led to Pokemon like Volcarona, Regieleki, and Terapagos being legal since Terra is the only reason OU filed a restraining order on them. But what about these guys? Archelodon turned OU into Miami because it was nothing but rain. Its typing and toolkit was perfect for countering Rain's worst matchups. Archelodon was very difficult to switch into and very difficult to KO, especially with Terra flipping its matchups. Not only is Terra banned in Monotype, but Archelodon is unable to be paired with Pelipperchan, so it cannot make use of its most threatening tool in Electroshot. Well, that seems fair, but what's this fucking thing doing here? I mean, for the love of Arceus, Fluttermane was banned in OU in 2 days! 2 days! And you're telling me Monotype is okay with it? From what I've been told, Fluttermane is legal because checks like Clodsire and Hisuian Goodra are way more common compared to OU. I still don't get it though, because Clodsire is one Psyshock away from being Gauntire, and Hisuian Goodra takes 35% from Specs Moonblast. Landorus Incarnate is outsped by a ton of offensive threats in Monotype, and the faster pace of the format means that its ability to rip apart defensive teams doesn't appear overbearing. Also the same reason Ocarpon Heartflame is unbanned. Roaring Moon doesn't have access to Terra, so it has no way to defend itself from the scary, fairy, or fighting type attacks swirling around. Sneasler also doesn't have Terra to break through its checks, but more importantly, it doesn't have Rillaboom to set up Grassy Terrain and activate Unburden with Grassy Seed. Spectre is held back by Mono Ghost's mediocre matchup into Dark types and Choice Scarfers or other fast threats like Dragapult on Mono Dragon or Fluttermane on Mono Fairy. And for Urshifu Rapid Strike, many of the best types in Monotype either have ways to check it or out-offense it. Plus, Urshifu doesn't have Terra to make Surging Strikes the dumbest fucking move ever. So if those monstrosities are allowed, why not Kermit and Zaza? Remember that thing I said about Monotype teams wanting to cover their type's weaknesses and out-offense their worst matchups? Well, these guys make that a lot harder. In OU, you have several options for dealing with Mamazenta and Queen Gambit. Not the case when you're restricted to one type. A lot of types don't have the options to deal with Iron Defense or all-out attacking sets from Zama, nor the options to deal with a +2 Supreme Overlord boosted Kingambit. You can't out-offense Kingambit because it has Sucker Punch, and you can't out-offense Zamazenta because, quote, fast as fuck boy. Now, you still might have some questions about the format, but one particular query for any metagame is, what are the best choices? Or more specifically, what the best types are. There's no definitive best type, but a couple stick out. Dragon with high damage, high base stat total monsters, and a coherent defensive core. Dark, who packs both solid defensive picks and incredible offensive pressure with wall breakers, fast Protean users, and spikes. And Flying for being one of the few types that can play slower games due to having an array of fantastic defensive options and fast revenge killers. Some honorable mentions include Steel with access to multiple immunities to different types, and the hyper-aggressive playstyle of fighting teams. All types are viable, though some are much less so than others. From researching usage stats and asking top representatives, I found Electric, Rock, and Grass to be the weakest types.
Wow, dude, Rock!
Electric lacks ways around types like Ground and Dragon. Electric also doesn't have many benefits defensively, so you're going to be playing an uphill battle with fast, powerful threats. Grass hasn't recovered ever since Ferrethorn was denied access to Baldean borders due to his affiliation with Cofagrigus. Without it, Grass has very few options to work with. Hazard setters are scarce, hazard removers are even more scarce, and any big threat with strong ice or flying type moves will rip apart any mono grass team. Rock has weaker options compared to other types, has little to no value defensively, meaning they are forced into playing aggressively, which is easier said than done when the type is littered with poor speed tiers and terrible matchups. Bug has a lot of the same issues, but having sticky webs and way better offensive sweepers puts it a step above the pebbles they hate. Ironic.
Wow, dude, Rock!
That's all I got for today. I don't have much else to say since I don't play the format regularly, but Monotype has a YouTube channel if you want to learn more about the format. There's also a discussion thread populated by the meta's dedicated player base. Those will be in the description. As I said in the beginning, it's important to try new things. It's not only enriching, but we learn something new about ourselves we never knew about before. And if you don't end up liking it, that's fine. You at least did something new. I mean, I tried getting into Dandanan because the concept of two dorks fighting aliens and ghosts is interesting. But then I watched the first episode and
Let's take his clothes off.
But why?
There! He looks good and naked now!
Hallelujah.
Oh, K-pop Demon Hunters, I heard this is good. What do you think? Does Monotype pique your interest, or does a metagame where Urshifu and Fleur-de-Main are legal trigger your PTSD? Also, what other formats would you like me to cover? Thank you for watching, and remember, when you learn to survive without anyone, you could survive anything. Except the Terra Dark Black Glasses Supreme Overlord Swords Dance Boosted Sucker Punch.
Kingambit!
Dude, Rock!